Okay, how to stop having a black-pilled view of dating. Um, so I made a video a while back about genetic determinism. It's my most popular video at the time of recording. And I think it's a very popular topic that people are more open to these days for a variety of reasons. This whole looks maxing culture, like all this stuff is becoming more popular, and some of this esoteric stuff from the internet is really catching on. And more than that, people are experiencing certain difficulties and changes in their daily life with the popularity of dating apps. And people are experiencing a lot of ghosting and fatigue around that. And for a variety of factors, there are a lot of difficulties people are having in dating right now, especially when you're young. So here's the thing. In this video, I just want to go into the merits and then the ultimately like the gaps in this whole black pill idea that everything is based on looks and how good looking you are, mainly like how attractive are you, like how tall are you, that kind of thing for men. And I want to get into the core piece that this is missing, because if you go off of this whole looks maxing idea, and you have like the most popular people who have made it mainstream, will tell you that the best way that you can improve your dating outcomes is just trying to be as good looking as possible. Do whatever it takes to make that happen, and then you can live this supposed like this 1% lifestyle. And I'm not denying the reality of that or the value that society places on looks, but rather I'm saying if you really break it down, I don't think that's even what most people, it's an idea that's being sold to people. If you look at historically or just in general, most people don't actually need or want that kind of lifestyle. Most people just want simple things, a steady relationship and a steady job and a normal life in a community where they feel welcome and loved. That's really all that I think the vast majority of people want. And to achieve that does not take, this whole extreme level of compensation and working on yourself. But what I think a lot of people miss, right? Because in my genetic determinism video, I flat out stated that when you have certain advantages at birth, that's what's going to propel you to your position in life. And I don't disagree with that statement, right? People either fall into two extremes on this issue. Either they say if you're not like in the top percentage of looks, then you're never going to succeed, which is nonsense. Or they say the opposite. They can't come up with a reason. You have all of these empty platitudes that are espoused. Like people talk about personality and dating, and people talk about like, oh, just go to the gym or just buy some nice clothes. These kind of like easy fixes. I'll get into the gym, and I actually have my own opinion on that and how it's overrated. But anyway, people have these easy fixes that they try to sell people, or, oh, just keep trying, it's a numbers game. But then what happens is, you log onto a dating app, or you go out and you approach people in real life, but that's no different because everyone's on dating apps. And you run into just so many options, but you can't get any traction going. And so that's not good enough to just slap on this band-aid of telling people to just try harder or work on themselves. You have to really break down into, okay, what is the science behind how dating works? And here's the thing, there is plenty of information and statistics out there about how people actually pair up. What got me interested in a topic called assortative mating was my job, where I look at tons of like couples IDs as just part of my job. And I noticed the similarities and how homogeneous dating actually is. Even in America, which is the biggest melting pot, there's just so many different groups of people here. And even in 2026, only 18% of couples are interracial, right? And sure, things are changing to an extent, but even then you tend to see very common like race pairings. You tend to see very common, if you look at, married couples and statistics, right? What is the average height difference? It's about 3 inches. What is the average socioeconomic background? It's similar. right? People tend to date within their socioeconomic background. College educated people tend to date other college educated people, all of these things. So, first of all, that kind of smashes the whole idea that that people are not like, oh, just be, like everybody's just chasing like the top percentage of people. That kind of smashes that whole idea. And then secondly, it also dismisses the whole notion that dating is about just personality and being charming, to be honest. It tells you that, if dating was about personality, you would see a total diverse mix of the couples that get formed. But instead, you see that people tend to seek out what's similar to themselves. I'm not talking common interests like, oh, we like to read the same books. That's just on the surface. I'm talking like where you grew up, what religious background did you come from? What is your ethnicity? What is your, like, how much money do your parents make? Like, these are the things that tend to line up between couples that actually stay together and are stable and make it to marriage. If you look around in the city or whatever, you'll see plenty of like mixed couples of all different backgrounds and variations and combos. But you actually get to the finish line of marriage and buying a house and all that stuff, and you see that these couples tend to be the same. And that's an uncomfortable truth. I don't think a lot of people are comfortable with that fact. But to be honest with you, it's a lot better than the alternative, because, if you keep telling people that it's just about personality, then what happens is, right, you log onto a dating app or you go out in public, whatever, you see all sorts of different types of people. And this can go for guys or girls. You just go for the hottest ones, the ones that you like, right? The ones that you have so many options. You just go for whomever. You experience ghosting, mistreatment, failure. You get bitter. You start to hate the opposite gender. And then it's a wrap. You're just another lost person in 2026. The way that you avoid that, in my opinion, is actually going back to this more old school idea of seeking out communities and people who are similar to yourself, right? I say this as a mixed race person. It's not easy for me to even take that advice, but I do. I practice what I preach. And it makes a dramatic difference. When you date people who are more aligned with yourself in terms of demographics, I'm not talking about personality, I'm talking about demographics. You'll find that you're treated better. People take you more seriously, right? You're much less of a chance of being ghosted, of being whatever, because people are seriously interested in you. There are a lot of people who, sure, they might find you like interesting or even like they just want to like somebody to chat with, or like maybe they even do find you attractive, but in an unserious way. They're not going to take you seriously. You got to filter those people out. And what you'll find is the reasons why a lot of people don't take you seriously is because they don't see you as a serious partner, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. And that has a lot more to do with how you look than how you act. So I'm not denying that dating is based on looks, but the alternative I want to present to you, right? Because there's all this online discourse, like Blackpill, like you just have to be as attractive as possible or you have no chance. You have to be a certain, like you have to be over 6 feet tall, whatever. It's nonsense. It's not true, right? But what is true based on the data, and if you even look at divorce rates, right? Everyone, in this whole like Blackpill community and all this, they love to tout the divorce rate. Oh, divorces are higher than ever. That's actually not true. It's a misrepresentation of the data. Divorces peaked in the 70s and then they steadily declined, but divorces are very high in certain subsets of the population, right? If you get married before the age of 24, much more likely to be divorced. If you get, and again, I'm sure that depends on where you're from, so don't just take that at face value, dig into that further. If you get married for a second or third time, more likely to be divorced, right? So what you find is that in Gen Z and millennials, people actually tend to get married later, but those pairings tend to be more stable than they were in the 70s and the 80s, because people wait longer, yes, but it's a more perfect market. People can find alignment. They get into stronger pairings, and you find that there's actually, you know, and I need some more data for this part, but there actually is a slight like decrease in like intercultural relationships, you know, like even in interracial, like, or between religions and stuff. It happens, but it's like a lot of Gen Z dates homogeneously, you know, because they have dating apps, because they can go find better alignment. And I know this, you know, this is going to be a controversial topic, but to be honest, I don't think that this is like a very like a doomer kind of thing at all. I think that this is just seeing reality for how it is. My main point here in this video is that if you are trying to improve your dating life, you should not accept, you know, this like pessimism of this idea of, oh, you just need to be very attractive and tall and all this stuff, or you're never going to succeed, is just false. Likewise, right, for women, it's like, you know, they tend to have different issues with dating than men overall, but it's like, you know, you keep dating people and it's not working out. That's also a matter of alignment, right? Sometimes you shoot too high. Sometimes men who are very attractive like will give you a chance but won't actually be serious, and you wonder why. And it's like, you got to look at, you know, assortative mating is what it's called. That's the term for this this idea that has a lot more credibility than these other theories about dating that are just not true. People miss the bigger picture. Look for demographic alignment. If you want to find a partner, then you should look at who is out there that comes from a similar background as you. And if you find that, you'll find that surprisingly the other stuff, common interests, those tend to develop anyway. They're actually kind of hard to see on a dating app profile, like just from the start. People don't fully represent, but you go out with somebody, you find out, oh, like this person actually has more in common with me than I thought. It's actually kind of spooky. And the reason why is because you had a similar upbringing, similar family background, similar values, all of that stuff just tends to come together naturally. So, and what you'll find, instead of having this big buffet of options, which is a delusion, an illusion, I meant to say, is that it actually becomes, when you start looking strictly for, you know, I mean, I'm into like similar age, you know, like within a couple years of your age, and similar, even like you could get very strict about it, similar height if you wanted to. I don't think that's particularly, like that might be getting too much into it, but similar socioeconomic background, this is important. If you went to college, right? Did she go to college? That sort of stuff. And right, he or she. And if you really break it down and set those kind of parameters on your dating app, which by the way, you can do it for free, right? All of these filters are available in free version actually. Long-term relationship versus short-term relationship, that one is not available for free on like Hinge, for example, but the other ones are. So you can do that. Or if you just do that like when you're approaching people in real life, you'll find a much higher rate of success. So you'll get more dates from fewer matches or fewer approaches, better conversion rate, and you'll get treated better too, because those people are actually seriously interested in you and don't just see you as like, you know, just some random person. They see you as somebody who they could potentially see as their future partner. Like the subconscious is doing a ton of heavy lifting there. So yeah, I might talk about this topic of assortative mating more in further videos if this does well, but yeah, I just wanted to come at this. You know, I see certain merits of people are questioning dating. They're saying, you know, I think dating is mostly about looks. I think they're right, but not in the way that this whole idea that is just not true. You know, couples do still get together with similar looking people. It's not just a bunch of like this idea of, it's just a bunch of like, you know, only very attractive people can succeed. That doesn't reflect. And I think that's the biggest weak point of this whole black pill narrative anyway. It's like, oh, well, how do you explain ordinary couples? And they say, oh, well, you know, like maybe the guy is just getting very, like, not treated very well, and the woman doesn't actually value, like, they settled for each other. It's like, that's not, like, look around you. That's not always true. And look at the data. Like, if that was the case, we would see, you know, skyrocketing divorce rates, which they would have you believe is true, but is actually not true. They're just slightly tapering off. You know, they're still at a decently high rate. I think it was, I need to look at the data. I think it was like 30 or 35% or something, but it's not 50%. That's false narrative. So yeah, I just want you guys to question the online narrative, and I'm trying to fill in the gaps. And I want to talk more about genetic determinism and all this stuff, but through a lens that is much healthier than most of this online discourse that is not only like jaded, but also factually flawed. All right, that's all. I'll see you guys later.